Hello and welcome to my first solo constructed magic experience on MTG Arena. Video, I guess I should say. So today I'll be running through the format on MTG Arena known as Quick Constructed. It's similar to the Quick Draft. You play best of one matches until you reach 7 wins or 3 losses. Today I'm going to be playing something simple. In actual Magic Standard, I end up playing something like this most of the time. It's green-black, a lot of interaction, a lot of value creatures, and I'll just be trying to get ahead over the course of every game. So, a couple things to note specifically about Magic the Gathering Arena. One, this format is not a format that exists anywhere else. In Standard, currently in the real world, there are 3 full blocks plus the Dominaria set. Whereas online, we have 2 full blocks plus Dominaria, leaving out Kaladesh. And this means a few things. One, Kaladesh is very powerful as far as sets go, and so the cards that we're used to playing around and having them decide games aren't there. There aren't the Gear Hulks or energy cards or anything like that. Secondly, and this is unfortunate for those of us who play things like green-black, the mana is very bad in enemy color. You can see for dual lands, I'm playing 2 Foul Orchards. I don't really want more than that because that's just too many. You don't want all your lands entering tapped. 4 Woodland Cemetery. This land is very good. I'm happy to play with those. But I don't have any Blooming Marsh because it doesn't exist on here. So I'm making up for that with a smaller desert package. This doesn't make my mana good, but it does mean that my mana base does something. I have 3 Heshep Oasis, 3 Ifnir Deadlands, and 1 Desert of the Glorified. This does a couple things. Like, this is an interactive card, even if you are running out of gas. Heshep Oasis can close games, even if you're running low on creatures. Need at least 1, but whatever. And Desert of the Glorified can turn into an additional draw step later, which is cool. If you draw it after you've already got all the mana you need. The other thing this does is it lets us use Hour of Promise as a sort of finisher advantage card. This card is great. 2 zombies stabilizes the board pretty well. Guaranteed getting 2 deserts, which means I'm getting lands that actually do something. And also, it just means that I have tons of mana available, so if I do have cards left over, I can actually properly leverage those by playing multiple spells in a turn. So onto the actual premise of the deck. The basis of this deck, essentially, is that I want every card to give me an advantage. To that end, I've got the Explore creatures, Merfolk, Branchwalker, and Jadelight Ranger. These are generating either card advantage or card selection. Ravenous Chupacabra kills something and then still leaves a body left over. Planeswalkers like Liliana Death's Majesty and Vraska Relic Seeker just generate huge advantages. And even the kill spell Never to Return destroys whatever you want it to, and then also can be used to get a zombie token or hate something out of the graveyard later. Beyond that, we just have a lot of generic removal. Wildgrowth Walker doesn't technically generate like card advantage, but gaining the life is powerful and it can get really big with the Branchwalker and Jadelight Ranger. Cast Down, I think this card is excellent. It kills almost everything you want to. It doesn't kill the Scarab God, but you don't really want to point destroy removal at that anyway. It doesn't kill Hazoret, but nothing does, so... And it kills almost everything else. Doomfall can answer Hazoret or the Scarab God, and is flexible, so it also deals with people's hands. Vraska's Contempt actually can deal with whatever you want, so this card's great. And then just a couple more cards that aren't exactly what I was describing. Driven to Despair, I really like this card. Most of the time, what happens is you end up curving out Merfolk Branchwalker into Jadelight Ranger, and then play both halves of this, and a creature with both Trample and Menace is very difficult to block properly, so usually you'll get through with both of them. And so then for 4 mana, they discard 2 cards, and you draw 2 cards, which is a 4-for-1, and that's really strong. Like, there's a reason they don't just print 4 mana, draw 2, they discard 2 at sorcery speed. And then the other card is Arguel's Bloodfast. You don't want more than one, because paying life and paying the mana is a real cost, and obviously they're very bad in multiples. But this effect can be very powerful in a deck like this that generates a lot of advantages, but doesn't have real card draw. This can give you something that you need. Oh, and Driven to Despair is also excellent with the Explore creatures, because if you see it on top, you can choose to put it into your graveyard and still get the Despair half as basically a free extra card. So I've played a few games with this. I think the deck is solid. I don't really know that I want to change anything else. Most of the experience has been winning most of my matches and then getting beaten up by mono red because, for example, Ramanop Ruins is not banned online, so you can play that card and it's really good, alongside Hazoret and Earthshaker Kenra and all the good mono red cards. But I recently added the Vraska's Contempt, so hopefully I'm not just dead to Hazoret anymore. Oh, one other card that's just a one-of is Vizier of the Menagerie. I don't know if this card belongs. It's not exactly on game plan. It's a 4-mana creature that isn't an enormous body and just enters and doesn't really do anything. But it works well with Explore creatures because they kind of dig you down to creatures that you'll be able to cast with it, and it's another source of card advantage, which this deck, as I mentioned, kind of lacks. It lacks real card advantage. So that's it for the deck tech, and we're going to go ahead and hop into Quick Constructed. Okay, and we're gonna go ahead and get right into it. I have plenty of coins, so I'll go with coins. Ooh, he's got Silver Star with all sorts of stuff on it. It's kind of interesting. I was in the MTG Arena closed beta from the very beginning, but early on they just had constructed with a couple pre-constructed decks, and the client still had some problems, and so I didn't really play very much. But once they released Dominaria, I felt like there was actually enough card variety and stuff to be interesting, and so I've been playing a lot. This hand has problems. Can't cast these Jade Light Rangers, but it can cast both of these cards, and any green source just turns the hand on, so I'm going to keep it. But yeah, since Dominaria was online, I've thought it had the potential to be a more interesting format, and I've been playing a lot. But because I haven't been playing for 6 months continuously, like a lot of people, my ranks and stuff are comparatively low. Although that was also funny when Quick Draft went live last week. I played a whole lot of drafts very quickly, and so my rank quickly climbed there. Because that was the only limited that had ever been available. I had a really high limited rank. Cool. So my opponent is playing Cats. This is relatively popular. You start with a Regal Caracol, and so they already have one of the best rares for this strategy. And this is great for answering Caracol or, okay, Cats with Monument. Really glad to have this Wild Growth Walker. It will effectively lock down the board. Okay, awesome. Branch Walker drew us the extra force we needed. I'm not going to attack. I don't want to trade with my Branch Walker. Okay. Now I'm sort of interested in being a lot more aggressive. This card, you can't really out-aggress. They're going to gain so much life from all their tokens. It'll be very difficult to keep up. But if they get down an Anointed Procession, it could end up being very difficult to stick with that. So part of me wants to play this because it commits to the board and also keeps the Anointed Priest off the table. But this card you don't want to kill if they play an Anointed Procession next turn, because then they get 2 Anointed Priests when they get it back. So I am actually just going to keep making bodies here. I'm going to put this in the graveyard. I think I have enough... spot removal with the cast down and the Chupacabra that I can kill an individual thing. And I want this on hand to be able to exile this. I could even... If in the next couple turns, for some reason this winds up dying, I want to be able to get it out of the graveyard so they can't play a procession and then get the Anointer Priest back. I apologize for the background noise. I'm not entirely sure why my apartment complex is mowing the lawn at 4:18 in the afternoon, but that's where we are. Opponent, close to timing out here. They have one extension, so they'll be able to keep going for a little while, but that only gives you 30 seconds. It's not a free pass to take as long as you want. Also funny, this card is good because it gets big enough in this matchup that the token creatures can't really threaten it. My opponent would need twice as much power as they have right now to even try to trade with the Wild Growth Walker. But the life gain is not as relevant because that's not how the tokens deck wins. They win by making like dozens and dozens of tokens and just smashing you with all their forces together. And so being at 29 versus 20 is just really not important. Okay. They just lose the opportunity to block if they time out there. I'm not actually sure how long this takes. Like, do they have less time per turn once they time out? I don't know. It doesn't look like it, which is a little irritating. I'm a fan of, in Gwent, or I believe Hearthstone does this too, if you time out for a turn, the rope appears immediately on your next turn. Looks like my opponent's actually playing though, so hopefully we can get on with this. Okay, another Anointer Priest. They will continue to gain lots of life. Okay. Probably be cycling this. I only have one card in my deck that costs 6, and with 5 land drops already accounted for, plus this Jade Light Ranger, I have to imagine I'm gonna hit my next lands. Going to attack with this. No, I'm not. Trades just aren't good enough. They could even double block here, and I could only trade with 1. I could cast down, but that's so mediocre. I suppose then, once I knew I was doing this, I should have Jade Light Rangered first. If they decide to take it, I'm going to wish this were 2 power bigger. I don't think this deck is, or this matchup is actually very good for us. Yeah. I think that's going to happen a lot. We're just going to have trouble punching through. I really want to find, like, my Liliana or... yeah, I'm gonna put that in the graveyard again. Yeah, I really want to find, like, one of my Lilianas or my Vraska or even just an Hour of Promise. I really need to be able to make a big board and start punching in for lots. Right now, my board is just not threatening enough. This is gonna happen eventually. They'll probably just make a token and gain some life. I'll feel dumb if they Anointed Procession, but again, that was going to happen eventually. I don't think there's a way to punish this. If they use a combat trick, I'll gladly cast down to save my guys. I think they're just trying to upgrade this into a cat token that gains life, or maybe even 2 cat tokens. Good, they don't have the Procession. Okay. This game was going to start getting really hard if they were making double tokens. They have nothing here? That would be great for me. Then I could start getting aggressive. can even... So, the obvious play is to just cycle this, see more cards, look for those powerful haymakers I was talking about. But what I think I'm actually going to do is I'm going to go to their end step, and then I'm going to cast down one of these Anointer Priests, because on my turn I'll be able to return and exile it. Cool. I'll do this first. Grow this guy, why not? Sure, I'll put that on the library. We'll continue growing this and generating advantages. Why is this? Play this. Okay. I'm going to return. I'm going to get rid of this Anointer Priest from their graveyard so that they can't get it back. And now... I think now I am going to start getting more aggressive. They can double block one of these, but I'm kind of fine getting an Anointer Priest off the table now that I know they don't have an Anointed Procession. I'm not opening them up to getting multiple Anointer Priests with one, by embalming this. Okay, just gonna get rid of my big attacker, which is kind of sad, but that's fine. Yeah, my opponent flooded out reasonably badly. Now I feel a little silly because this isn't generating a real advantage anymore, but that's fine. Oh, this is cool. So what I can do, even though my opponent has a pretty healthy life total because the Anointer Priest has been getting them a bunch of life back, they're incentivized, yeah, to do this. And if I had to guess, they probably aren't going to block to let the Anointer Priest die. Oh, they are. I wouldn't... Just on board, that's bad, because they know I can return again, and it only saves 1 damage compared to blocking the zombie. It's kind of an odd play. So now I'm just going to return again. Get rid of this. And now I can pass, and I'll finally get to cycle this desert. And now my opponent is in a lot of trouble. They're out of resources, and I have a huge board. This is also kind of why cards like Anointer Priest, or especially this one, the Ritual of Rejuvenation, aren't good for the most part, is because gaining life without committing to the board just means that eventually your opponent chews through your board, and then I'm still left with all my creatures. Oh, this is embarrassing. I wasn't even thinking about this at all. So, they still have enough mana to do whatever I want. Alright, that's on me. I suppose it doesn't matter how I tap if I'm doing this first. Okay, it drew me 2 lands, but I'm actually going to play the forest so that I can Branch Walker this turn. Ugh. How do I feel about that? I think I'll put that back in my library. That has the potential to draw me a lot of cards. I feel so very silly now. I can't believe I just walked straight into that. I wasn't thinking about it at all. I think I'm still very likely to win this game, but that is not how you want to go about that. They have another one. Even if they do have another settle, I think it's correct to attack with both. I need to apply a lot of pressure. Yep. Unfortunately, I do not have any more basics, so that's not happening. Let's play this Vizier, see if I have anything fun. That's a very good card. Unfortunately, not really going to be able to take advantage of it. Oh man, I am just really not playing very well. I should have done this before I attacked. I've been sitting on these Doomfalls all game. Whew. I think we're going to win this game, but we're going to have to play better than that to... If we're going to win against a matchup that isn't so heavily in our favor, where the opponent floods out and isn't able to really do much. If they top deck to settle here, that's fine. I'm not going to use a Doomfall when I'm already planning to Driven to Despair. Get a couple more deserts out of our deck, get some zombies, and now 7. We only have the one. I suppose I should have grabbed double Heship Oasis, because then I could threaten lethal this turn. Okay. I'm really glad they don't have an Anointer Priest on board, because they would have gained life and made an indestructible horse, and I could have eventually worked through it, but it would have been a pain in the butt. We are extremely likely to win now. We've got more than lethal on board, a bunch of fun lands to interact with them. Yeah. Okay, so if we're going to try to win all 7 matches, we're going to have to play a lot better than that, because that was not good. I even think I played reasonably well on the early turns, just prioritizing generating my advantages, hitting my land drops, getting ahead. But then I walked into multiple tricks that I should not have. This hand is the slightest bit awkward. It doesn't have interaction, and it doesn't have anything to do on 3, but it does have all of our colors of mana, it has a lot of deserts, and it has value stuff. So I think I am going to keep it. If I am against mono red, I'm going to feel very dumb. We don't have any of our good mono red cards. I have to lead on this Woodland Cemetery because I don't have any basics, so it's going to enter tapped, and then I draw this. Of course. And if I want to be able to cast the spells without taking a bunch of damage. Okay, that's... Would have really liked to, I don't know, scryed a card and gotten my 3-2 or something. Opponent's showing Esper colors, which probably means a control deck, which is not really good for us, given our hand. I guess I'm glad I don't have removal, but I would really like a Jade Light Ranger or something here. This is also the type of matchup where maybe if I'd had a bunch of creatures to start, like if I'd had the creature that gets bigger when my guys explore, that would have been powerful enough to warrant removal from my opponent, and they might have done something, but as is, they're probably not going to burn a removal spell on my Merfolk Branchwalker, and so Vizier of the Menagerie is extremely unlikely to just sit and go unchecked and draw me a bunch of cards. Okay, I stand corrected. Noted. If opponent's playing 1 Seal Away, this is probably their removal spell of choice. They probably don't have a lot of them, and so I'm incentivized to not attack with my Vizier if I want to keep it around. Alternatively, if I attack, they only have a... well, now they have an extra white source. Previously, it would have tapped them out of blue, and so I would have been guaranteed to resolve my Liliana. I'd prefer if this didn't get countered, but I don't think there's a good way to avoid it. If it gets countered, it's probably something like that. I suppose I could have played around that by waiting, but I don't really have the mana to afford to do that. I really don't want to walk into another Seal Away, but I don't think I'm winning by just sitting here forever. If I don't do anything and they just untap and play Teferi and tuck my Vizier away, I think the game's just over anyway. Yeah. Yep, another Seal Away. I'd hoped not, but if they have a Teferi, I'm just going to concede the game. They're flooded out way too hard. Okay. Still technically playing Magic, but I'm extremely unlikely to win this game. The 4-lander turned into a 9-lander? Yeah, that's disgusting. One nice thing about playing against Control in Arena Constructed is that Hieroglyphic Illumination is the best card draw spell, basically. There's no Glimmer of Genius, and so it's a lot easier to crawl back into a game even after they've resolved their card draw, whereas if an opponent had Glimmered there and was now holding up Torrential Gearhulk, the game would basically just be over. It's already mostly over, but meh. It's always possible the opponent is flooding out just as badly as we are. Sure. Field of Ruin's a weird card because unlike similar things like... I've got plenty of both colors. Unlike similar things like Path to Exile or Settle the Wreckage, it is not voluntary. You have to do it. Ugh. If I had to draw a creature, that is definitely the worst creature for me to draw. So, say if I had the Vizier out and I saw a card that I liked, or if I had explored and my opponent sees that I kept a good card on top, they can hit me with that, and I can't say no. I have to shuffle my library. If I have to draw a land, I'm glad it's that one. Cycling. Okay. I'm not just dead to a Teferi or Scarab God anymore. So this was... Again, if I were drawing a non-threat card, this is probably the best card I could draw. Let's see. I have 6, 7, 8, so I can't quite play this and hold up this, but I don't know that that matters. 1 Teferi activation is not going to end this game in one way or another. I think what I'm going to do is I'm just going to play Vraska. I can pay for minor counter spells. The other option is to... Okay, yeah, they just had the cancel, that's fine. My only other real option was to just wait until I draw Doomfall, but I only have 2 of those in my 42 card deck, so that seems a little thin to me. Okay. Let's see, they're probably going to try to kill my ranger with the trigger on the stack by the looks of it. Yep, sure. This is why I don't think these control decks are bad, or control matchups are bad. Yeah, see, this is awesome. I drew out a kill spell. I binned a very, very bad card, and which is sort of the same as drawing it, honestly, in this matchup. I would be very surprised if I got to use this before the end of the game. And then also got to bin this return, which this card isn't good right now. I don't think it matters without Torrential Gearhulk in the format. The Never half isn't very good. I already have 1 of that effect. I don't want to draw more. I want to work my way through towards my threats. But I got to return, so I got to make a zombie. So if they have another moment of craving, they'll probably burn it here. So the Jade Light Ranger was worth 3 cards or so, which is insane. Go ahead and end my turn. And yeah, these control decks have extremely good threats and finishers. That's a good card. We'll have to see if I can Chupacabra that. Oh, another Never to return. Okay. Trying to tap selectively. Mostly, I don't even hate the tapping algorithm once I'm in Constructed, but the fact that it desperately avoids tapping your Ifnir Deadlands is very annoying. And this is good because they have 5 lands up, which is a few, but they only have double blue, and so even if they have, say, another Admiral's Orders to counter this Ravenous Chupacabra, yeah, like that, I'm still going to get to Never the Shalai, so I don't have enough to return, so it doesn't matter how it taps. Okay, yeah, they burned a cast down on my zombie token. That is fine. So now we're in a situation where, honestly, I feel favored. Even if they have, even if they slammed a Planeswalker there, they didn't have... I don't know why it constantly wants me to exile things from my own graveyard. Sure, exile this in case they have some sort of reanimation. Yeah, even if they have a good finisher like the Scarab God or Teferi, I have it handled, and I am getting more and more likely to be able to run them out of answers, because they just don't have the strong card draw they need to really get ahead. I wish I didn't draw that, but that's fine. Sort of tempted to Driven to Despair immediately. I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to give it one more turn, because they've shown themselves to be very aggressive about protecting their life total. They sealed away my Merfolk Branchwalker. They immediately burned the cast down on my zombie as soon as it looked like it was going to be able to attack. So if they had an answer, I think they were going to do it there. Okay, let's see. 6. I have 10 mana, which is enough. Because what I want to do here is I'm going to tap colorless, and I'm going to Driven. Now what I'm going to try to do is I'm going to Driven to Despair and attack, and hopefully bait out any answers they have, and then I can just slam Liliana and start getting ahead that way. Yep. This was a mistake on my opponent's part, I think. I am extremely likely, if I have a creature out and I'm casting Driven, and my opponent has 4 cards in hand, I am so likely to use the Despair half too, and so they could have made me waste that as well. Okay, yeah, opponent, you saw that instantly resolved, so I know that my opponent just doesn't have any cards in hand. I could make a zombie, and I think instead I'm going to continue trying to dig towards the good stuff in my deck, so I'm going to reanimate this Jade Light Ranger. Okay, they had that. Makes me more glad that I played this the way I did. That's an interesting one. I think I'm going to put it in the graveyard. Definitely keeping that on top. Again, now, I thought things were very bad earlier, but luckily we drew all of the bad cards out of our deck, and oof. Maybe not. This is a really good card. Generates a lot of advantage. Yeah, it's mana efficient enough. I'm gonna go ahead and Despair here. They probably just have some bad card that doesn't matter that they can pitch without being too worried. It's possible I want to wait until I've made a bunch of tokens with Vraska. Oh, yeah. And hope they don't have another counter. They apparently do not. They might have another Vraska's Contempt. This is interesting. I definitely don't think I want to make a pirate. The question is if I want to get my Vizier back, or if I want to blow up as search for Azcanta. I think I'm going to do the latter. I think I've now got enough resources that if I lose this game, it's because I let this go crazy and they get their draw step and then a good card out of their top 4 every single turn. Ixalan's Binding, sure, it's going to exile Vraska, but that's fine. Unfortunately, that is both Vraskas out of my deck, and let's see. Both Vraskas and both Lilianas, so I'm out most of my good finishers. Even so, I think I still might be good. If they, say, draw a Search for Azcanta on this next turn, I'm going to be in a lot of trouble. Nope, they just drew a land. Okay, that's also very good. Both because this will get me double Heshep Oasis, which is good for... It means I'll definitely be able to push lethal damage next turn even through a blocker, but also just making zombies. Yep, sure.
Show me what you can do.
We'll wait and see what they do with it. Shouldn't matter, but... Okay, my ranger can't deal combat damage. Just gonna go ahead and exile this. And, yeah, ranger can't deal mana damage, but that's fine. I am just going to activate this and pump my walker. Okay, that was much harder to win than our last match, although I think I played better. Yeah, we attacked with a lot of small creatures and completed our quest. Yeah, opponent only saw the one hieroglyphic illumination. There were multiple turns where if they'd seen a Teferi, they would have just played it and the game would have been over. Couldn't have possibly come back from the advantage that card would generate, but they flooded out at just the right times, just as we were starting to get back into it. Also, things like we saw them discard that Essence Scatter to the Despair. Yeah, this hand's fine. If that had lined up a little differently against some of our spells, maybe they would have been in a better way. Okay, now the hand's good. Well, they led on Mountain, which is scary. Hopefully not Mono Red. I swear the Mono Red matchup should be great with Wild Growth Walker, but it just isn't. I just die to Hazoret every time. This matchup is... This card is so scary. We are definitely going to be casting that creature down. Leading on Wild Growth Walker here because it generates advantage when I play either of these. Hopefully I'll be able to Jade Light Ranger into Branch Walker, hold up, cast down. Just need any untapped land off of either my draw steps or Jade Light Ranger for that. Yeah. Sure. Definitely keeping that on top. We already have the 5 lands accounted for, and that should be very good. You'll see. I am probably, no matter what, leaving up cast down. A common play from this deck is to play the 5th land, play this creature, and then immediately Savage Stomp, since it only costs 1, and then that can often kill most of our board by itself. Okay. Looks like my opponent is flooded here a bit. They are... Like, they haven't played a card that really matters yet, and they have at least 1 mana source in hand. So their 3 unknowns will have to be good, otherwise Liliana and Driven to Despair are going to make their life very difficult. Hell, they might even, like, attack with this and play this creature. We cast it down, and then we're guaranteed to get double triggers off of Driven to Despair, and in that case, it'll be extremely difficult for them to win with losing most of their hand. Sure. I'm gonna let this resolve, see if they try to use some sort of fight card. Okay, on their end step, I still think I'm going to cast this one down. Shrinks this guy back down. Yeah. I think we are just going to do this turn. Get it while they still have cards in hand, and both halves are likely to be good. And the Menace and Trample here is great because they either double block Jade Light, which is not great for them because they lose both their creatures, and it still connects for 1 to deal a damage and make them discard a card. Sure, I'll prioritize it like this. I think the 1/1 that can be a 3/3 is more likely to be valuable. Yeah, they just traded both of their creatures for my Jade Light Ranger, and I still get the 4-card swing. Sure. This opponent appears to have built a sort of middle of the pack, or middle of the way type of dinosaurs deck. They have a bunch of the 3 and 4 mana dinosaurs. I can't say I'm in love with that strategy. How do we play this? I suppose this can only hit creatures, and so it still can't really threaten Liliana at all. So what I'm probably going to do is I'll just attack with this. I'm totally fine with trading. There's no way that they want to, though. So then I can play my land, play Liliana, and just make a zombie. I don't want to tick her down. The Jade Light Ranger would be better than a zombie, but then a removal spell or something would put her in danger of dying to this. Sure. So I think I lose both my creatures if I block here, but I think that's fine. I've got so much removal in hand, including most of it at instant speed, that I'm mostly scared of some big monster coming down and winning the game. Is it going to get better? I don't think it likely is, so I'm just going to get back a Jade Light Ranger now. I'll put that one in the graveyard, which is sweet. That in the library, because it's excellent. Okay. I think I've mostly got this locked up. One of the only cards that could even make this fairly difficult. I suppose I probably should have played this. Okay. This is one card that can make my life difficult. That card is so annoying, dealing 1 to everything. And we'll have to see what they put on top. Okay, that card doesn't matter. A card that could make my life really difficult is Carnage Tyrant. I have been in situations before where I felt like I couldn't possibly lose, and then my opponent slams a Carnage Tyrant, and I've got all this stupid removal that can't target it, and you feel really dumb.
I prefer low places.
Yep, opponent is going to play their Atali. I'm going to hit it with Vraska's Contempt, and we will attack for lethal. Alright. 3-0. I like how this is going so far. Worst case scenario, go even. I'll take that. Okay, they have the gold thing, so my opponent has been playing a lot of Constructed. I think this is just too bad. We don't even have double green to cast our 1 spell. And in this format, you're going to lose games to that. The mana just isn't good enough to play a 2-color deck with heavy symbols on both colors and expect to cast your spells every game. This hand is much better than the last one. And yeah, I'll keep that. Definitely would have kept any 3rd land here. Okay, interesting. Makes me think probably not White Weenie just because that deck has so many 1-drops, but we shall see. Okay. Now it makes me wonder if they are more of a control deck. Oh, that was a mistake, and that was a very bad one. I definitely meant to play the Woodland Cemetery. We're probably not going to be able to play 4-drop on time now. Okay. Mardu. So they probably are some very slow mid-range control deck type thing. Okay. I'm gonna destroy. Yep. This. In that, I don't think that's the type of game we're playing anymore. Remember to at least play that, so it'll be untapped next turn. Okay. They missed that land drop, which is good for us. I'm not going to do this just for 2 cards and get blown out if they have a removal spell. Just going to keep attacking with this Branchwalker, and then I'll play this Vizier. If a lot of their removal's red, like this Magma Spray, it's going to be difficult for them to remove this card. 4 toughness is a lot. Oh, and they're discarding hand size. Whoa. That was not what I expected them to discard to hand size. Oh my. Yeah. Again, Driven to Despair, not optimal here because they have so many cards in hand that they obviously can't cast. They're discarding to hand size anyway. I don't think that's how this game is going. What I am going to do, though, I don't want a second one of these, so this is extra value compared to normal. That isn't really better, but sure. Yeah, opponent just conceded. They were obviously trying to do something very ambitious, some sort of ramp deck, maybe all the best payoffs across all colors. It's a little sad that that's how the game went. I would have liked to see what the hell they were doing. Hand's great. Needs to hit land drops, but we have a card that helps us do that, and we're on the draw. Awesome. As I've said before, gonna lead on the swamp. Hopefully we draw a green source that doesn't hurt us for the Branch Walker and Wild Growth Walker. Okay. This card is annoying, but luckily we have Ravenous Chupacabra for that. This card is obviously annoying because it generates value, but if they don't have a Lord, we have something that cleanly blocks it, so that's cool. No Lord, please. Yeah, I mean, that's not a Lord. Okay, awesome. This is great because it both lets us continue to curve out, use our mana effectively, and this is 2 shots at drawing us into lands, so we can continue to hit land drops. That's an interesting question. Is that what this game is about? Or can I win with just generating value with the bodies? I think I'm going to be greedy and keep that one on top. Again, I'm not going to attack, even with a Lord. This is holding off their whole board. That's great. Okay. Now, I think I'm going to play a little bit. I could play double Branch Walker, explore, continue to lock down the board. I think that's better. I'm not scared of this card yet. I just want to make sure I keep hitting my land drops. I talked myself out of it. I was going to actually Chupacabra this, because that's the scariest card. But just because my deck locks down the board so well. Okay. Unsummoning my Wild Growth Walker, that's fine. I am going to bin that one. I do need to find lands. And so now, my blocks aren't quite as good as they were a second ago, but it's really bad for my opponent because this is card disadvantage. They don't get their card back, and so this is playing into how I want to play the game now. Okay. See where they decide to put these. Sure, that's fine. I will gladly trade off here. I just want to keep my life total high. Okay. Now, because I can't cleanly play 2 explore creatures in 1 turn for my Wild Growth Walker, I'm going to have to start casting my black cards. Not have to, but I want to. Because now if I hit another green land, I'll be able to use my mana more effectively. I'm not going to attack here. Okay. It's a really good card. Again, I'm going to just use my black things. Hopefully they don't have a counter. This guy could be really scary if I can't answer him very quickly. Yep. Hopefully they don't have the thing that gives hexproof. Yep, okay. Their guy got the card back, but I'm still generating advantage this way. Now I am going to attack because they don't have very good blocks. Eh. Opponent hasn't missed a land drop yet. They're probably flooding a bit, or at least flooding compared to where they want to be. Oh, that's very gross. Okay. Let's see. I will lead on the Jade Light Ranger because it has 2 looks at finding me a land to cast the Branch Walker. Cool. Do I want this? I'm out of kill spells, so I think I do. That one's a little tough for me. I don't know if I'm supposed to keep that on top there. I'm not out of kill spells. What am I talking about? That was dumb. Got the Vraska's Contempt in my hand. Do they have good blocks here? Not really. If they double block here, I'm happy with getting the Jade Guardian off the table. That's by far the scariest thing, and if they block with everything else, I kill multiple creatures. Actually, everything else isn't enough toughness to kill this guy. Okay, opponent's seen enough. Yeah, I think they really needed for that game to go in my opponent's favor. They really needed that Kumena to stick around. That card could have drawn a lot of cards and made up for the more incremental advantages of things like Ravenous Chupacabra. Just one creature that draws 4 or 5 cards and is also a 2/4, and then it could have started growing their board. Like, that could have easily taken over the game. But as is, it didn't really trade up that way, and Ravenous Chupacabra got to do what that card does. Yeah, I wish this hand had a little more late game, but these are how you find it. And Wild Growth Walker locks down against an aggressive deck or represents a very big threat. Cool. Maybe not exactly what we wanted. We probably wanted a 4 or a 5 or even a 3 to start, but if I have to choose between drawing more of this and drawing some very powerful late game, I definitely choose this card. Okay. So again, a control deck. We'll see how they play this. Showing the Syncopate is interesting because now I can't play around it, and I'll continue to... Whoa, what is this? Okay, it's a strange Mind Stone that they can't crack yet. Interesting. Let's see. I'm again going to lead on this guy. Getting these down earlier doesn't really matter. It applies more pressure, but I don't think that's how I win this game. Teferi here would be scary. This is also very scary. Oh! Luckily, I drew a very good card. It is often better to be lucky than good, if you have to choose one or the other. And I gave that speech about how this kills almost everything that matters, except creatures that you can't destroy with kill spells anyway, and then my opponent plays a giant unbeatable angel. Needless to say, I was very glad to draw that Chupacabra. Now, my opponent's back is against the wall a bit. They're running out of cards in hand. If they can flip this, it's a very good draw engine. But, yeah, they're burning 3 mana counters on my 2 mana value creatures. And I have another one. And so, if this draws me into land drops, soon I'll be casting ridiculous Planeswalkers. This is probably the only non-land card that I would possibly keep on top. Because it both digs me towards more lands and represents lots of pressure with an additional body and the Wild Growth Walker. Okay. I see a lot of Arena opponents not doing this properly. They don't set stops on their upkeep, and so they're scrying during their main phase, which is not when you want to be scrying. Another reason I kept this on top is it represents my opponent having the ability to counter it, which is scary because it means I'm definitely not hitting my land drop this turn. But I am so ahead on board after this resolved that that's not good enough for my opponent. They can't just... Yeah, they're cycling removal spells while they're losing on board. Probably looking for some sort of sweeper. Playing to the hand with counter spells and draw spells is not going to be good enough anymore. Even a Teferi here would be very bad. Okay. This is another thing. I walked into this earlier, but I was actually thinking about it this time. It was one of the spells that could have gotten them back into this. But I'm fine with losing all of my creatures. Because... Yes, definitely take action. the way I was losing this game was that I'm stuck with these very powerful 6-drops in my hand, not contributing to the board. Well, that's the worst thing that could have been on my deck after how we played that, but... Okay. Okay, and they also have the City's Blessing now, so they can turn this into a card if they want. That turn was very good for my opponent, but... They're largely out of cards. They can't draw this yet. They have access to a bunch more, but... Okay, that's scary. Gains a lot of life. Tempted to blow this up. With Vraska? Don't think that's correct, but... Oh, I really would have liked to see, like, another Branchwalker on top. I think I just need to start applying as much pressure as possible. Making pirates. Ticking up is also good because even if they activate this and gain a lot of life back, I have the potential to set them to 1, and then any attacker is lethal. The last few cards being Settle the Wreckage and Approach of the Second Sun is very scary. I thought we were mostly in the clear this game, and now things are definitely on the edge. Ugh. That's brutal. Again, we just really needed threats. Not even finding any deserts, like a Hash-Up Oasis here would be more than fine. Okay, let's see, it was 7th from the top. They drew for turn and drew 1 here, and so it's 4 or 5 cards down. I don't think they're going to be able to draw themselves into it without a Hieroglyphic Illumination or something like that. Okay, that's another 2, so they've drawn 4 deep when it was from when it was 7th, I think. They also just don't have the mana to, or they do have the mana to cast that card, but... Okay. So, what I'm gonna do here... I'm not sure if it's better to do this before or after a Settle the Wreckage, because I'm fairly certain my opponent has a Settle here. That's the only way to not just be dead. Let's see, I have 9 lands, so I can cast this before casting another Vraska, because what I want to do is I want to set their life total to 1, attack them, make them settle, and then commit to the board again. So I think I'm going to start by doing this. Okay, drew more garbage. That's fine. I think, in case they have anything that isn't Settle the Wreckage, it's better to make all of my attacks lethal. Maybe they'll be dealing with my combat in some way that gains life that I'm not thinking about, and I'll get punished for that, but I don't think so. Oh, I suppose this gains them the life. That's one reason to not do it the way I did. That put them 5 cards deep. Their draw step puts them 6, I think. Sure. It matters. So I don't think they're going to be able to approach this turn, but we're still in so much trouble. Even if they don't... Hell, they might have just drawn another one that wasn't the one, or I'm miscounting. I need both my threats here to get through to be lethal. Oh, now I think, yep, they just win the game. Okay. I'm really not a fan of them printing Approach of the Second Sun. I think a sorcery that says you win the game is a very, very boring design. I don't think it leads to fun games, but I also don't want to sound like a salty person who lost. The hard control decks are going to have an advantage over a mid-range deck like me. I got my board wrathed multiple times. don't think this hand's good enough. This hand has a lot of the same problems, but it's closer, so I will keep it. Keep that on top. That is a spell I can cast. Last game would have been an excellent time to draw Doomfall. Could have cleared the way and attacked through any of those settles, which would have been great. Okay, opponent's also playing black-green. They are probably playing an upgraded version of one of these starter decks. Do I want that? I don't think so. I think I just want to hit my land drops for this type of stuff. Okay. If they block and pump in some way, I was going to be prepared to cast down to blow them out. But instead, I am going to Doomfall their hand to try to cut off any high impact plays they might have. Except they have a lot of them. Oh dear. Wow, this hand is excellent. I don't even know where to start. I think I have to take the Liliana Death's Majesty. I can't beat this card either, the Carnage Tyrant, and they'll be able to deal with whatever I'm doing. Okay, my opponent is not playing the Precon. They are playing my deck, but much better suited for the matchup. Yeah. Okay, that's a weird play, but I took my high impact card. Okay, sweet. If I get back into the game, it's from basically this happening. My opponent has chosen to attack my hand, and I don't think that was really correct, because that is how you fall behind on board. And their hand was so good that there is no way anything in my hand is good enough to... I gotta bend that. The Chupacabra even eats their Chupacabra and helps me get in still, but there's no way my hand had anything good enough that they could risk falling behind on board and losing that way, I think. Okay, sure. Well, that's just excellent for me. Now, I didn't even talk about it because I thought it was so unlikely, but I think my best chance of victory for this game is my opponent to miss a few land drops and fall behind, and then I get to get both halves of this Driven to Despair and empty their hand. And, like, if they use the Vraska's Contempt on Liliana, yeah, they kind of have to. That's kind of what's going to happen to them here. Let's see. I will tap for colorless and a green to cast Driven, and then black and another colorless, I guess. In case I draw any 2-drop, I can cast it off this. I'm going to Despair. They're probably going to go down to Carnage Tyrant in hand. They can't block because I have Menace. And this might be enough cards generated that they won't be able to come back even with a Carnage Tyrant if I flood the board in good stuff. I wish I had had the opportunity to get in with a little more, get another card out of their hand, but I think this was my best shot. I don't want them to hit a land and slam the Carnage Tyrant and then just have none of the cards in my hand do anything. Okay, yep. I get to play their big nasty. Lucky for me, my opponent is not playing with deserts like I am, so they will not be able to just play a Hash-Up Oasis. Speaking of that, one thing I could do, I would need to hit another green for that to work though, is I could start making them essentially need to block with Hash-Up Oasis on Jade Light Ranger. I don't know that I'm going to get a better target for this, and I do want it off the board in case of a Doomfall or some such, so I'm going to burn that. That might be a little aggressive. Okay. when you have 6 mana and the board's starting to stall out, your 6 mana Planeswalker is always your best draw. Not going to attack. I don't have good attacks. Notably, she's also so good, because Vraska's loyalty is insane. My opponent could literally cast Plague Wind here. Okay, that was a really good draw on their part. Tit for tat. Gonna just keep putting as many bodies onto the board as I can. Tap this for colorless, so I don't have to take damage for no reason. Yep, put it on my library, because that is a really good thing to draw. Oh! I played this wrong. I could have gotten in a lot of damage this turn. Oh well. Let's see. If I think I do wait. I think it is better to wait. So what I could have done is I could have cycled this desert, drawn Driven. Yeah. So we're gonna get this now because, as my opponent should see, I can play this and then flash it back and give all of my creatures menace, can't block, and I will attack for 10. Okay. That was not a game I expected to win. Oh man. When my hand was super bad, I had like 1 cast down and a Jade Light Ranger and really nothing else, and my opponent had all of the best cards in the matchup, just like the best Planeswalkers and Chupacabra and a Carnage Tyrant that my deck can kill basically never. And I just drew what I needed and they didn't, and I was able to leverage a big advantage with Driven to Despair. This hand's slow, it's very slow, but it has good interaction and things to generate advantages, so I will keep it. If my opponent's on mono red, I'm going to die too quickly, but I think this is good enough in enough matchups. Also, I'm on the play, so I'm able to draw out of a slow hand a little easier. Okay. This is interesting. I have 3 drops, so I'm incentivized to get this into play, so this will be on tap next turn. I don't think I'm going to be casting anything down, but there is some consideration, so I could very cleanly use my mana and kill a Lord or something and only take 1 here. Okay. Again, I don't think I'm going to be using this instant speed. They didn't do anything on 2, and this is a clunky card, but I'm going to have to use it at some point. And the Edict is not going to be good against the deck that can make 1/1 hexproofs and has cards like this. So I'm going to try to proactively make sure... Oh, their hand is very bad. Unsummon is, as we've mentioned, card disadvantage, and it's very bad against me. I'm just going to make sure they can't give one of their guys hexproof. Okay. If we hit a land, we're in extremely good shape this game. If we do not hit a land, we're not in good shape. Oh, and they even played the land that I didn't know about? Again, this isn't likely to get better. I think I'm actually going to do this turn. This either takes their unsummon, or they unsummon their own Herald, and then I get that anyway, so. This is not great use of this, but I don't think it's going to get better. They're not going to hold creatures in their hand. They are going to have enough mana to play whatever they want from now on, and then I can hit that with my actual spot removal. Oh, man. Okay. That doesn't feel amazing, but we are definitely flush with spot removal. And the way the adage usually goes is that mana screw beats mana flood, so as long as we start drawing lands eventually, before we just get beaten down... Okay, that was... They've had a couple decent draws. I'm definitely going to kill this River Sneak. I'm definitely going to kill this River Sneak with my Ravenous Chupacabra. Cool. So this was even a good draw for them. It cycled itself for free. Gladly block. Blocks aren't getting better than that. Okay. As I said, we just needed to draw lands eventually. I could never... I can't never and leave up Cast Down. Tempted to just return. Just start using my clunkiest, hardest to use spells. Exile something out of my opponent's graveyard. And this still threatens to trade here. And I'm totally fine with if I block and they have some sort of trick and they want to burn it. They will regret putting counters on this type of thing. Okay. I was definitely going to block before, now extra so. This card is not living through my turn, that I swear. And that should be the end. My opponent would need something extremely good to draw out of it here. I guess, like, the Nissa Steward of Elements, the one from Amonkhet, could... I believe they can cast it for 6. It's a good card. Probably not going to be fast enough. I think I'm just going to generate enough pressure. Oh, especially if I draw cards like that. Jeez. I was gonna say not the best draw, but is it not the best draw? Now I'm tempted to just burn a Vraska activation to blow this up. This should be able to win the game by itself. I don't know that I need to do that, at least not yet. That's also attractive because it generates another treasure. Okay, yep. Making hexproof Merfolk is really annoying. So how do I want to handle this? So I have a few options. I can draw another card, because I got this treasure for black. I can cast down to kill this. I don't know if I need to do that now. I do think I actually want to... Okay, so I have decided... going to cast down this. Untap. Downtick. Blow up Deep Root Waters. So I don't have to worry about any more Hexproof Merfolk. Combat. Attacks. Okay. Opponent had seen enough. They didn't even see the other Vraska. Okay. 7-1. Deal. This almost feels like I'm cherry picking because that was by far the best result I've had with the deck, but I promise that if I had been recording, you would have seen me die horribly. I got double my coins back, a mythic, a rare, and this, I guess. Could be worse, I've seen worse things. Anywho, this video's gone on long enough because I didn't die as quickly as I thought I would, so I will talk to you all next time.